Ed is here in Street Fighter 6, and he's had quite the glow up. Going from a burly, overdressed upstart to a lean, pretty boy with an abrasive attitude and what looks like a ton of meth. But no, Ed isn't high on drugs, he's high on psychopower.
That's how it's done!
Capcom has put a ton of work into making Ed really come into his own in Street Fighter 6. Everything from his design, animations, and even his soundtrack have an absurd level of attention to detail. The game's director even admitted that Ed is pretty much the reason modern controls even exist at all in SF6. He also serves as a dark mirror to the game's mascot, Luke. Notice how Ed's design parallels Luke in many ways? Open jacket, distinctive necklace, fingerless gloves. Ed's hair is parted to the right, covering part of his face, symbolizing his withdrawn, mysterious nature, while Luke's hair is swept to the left and open, highlighting his approachable, friendly personality. Both are young fighters of their respective sports, UFC and boxing, sports that have quite recently clashed in real life. Even Ed's story depicts him as the reluctant antagonist, compared to the main character energy given off by Luke.
Dude, you look huge. Oh ladies, what's good?
In Street Fighter V, Ed was more of a kickboxer, and was one of the most accessible fighters thanks to his simple input special moves, which were a first in the series. In SF6, however, Ed has fully embraced boxing and only attacks with his fists, thank God. He's also gone from one of the easiest characters to pick up to one of the hardest, with some of the toughest combo structures in the game. But as someone who dabbles in boxing in real life, and by dabble I mean hit the bag at the gym for an hour with absolutely zero form of technique, he immediately caught my eye, and I simply had to pick him up and make a video about him. Sure, I'm a few months late, but who fucking cares? Although I will say that while I was immediately drawn to Ed from the get-go, the overall reaction to him initially was not as favourable. He was only introduced in SF5, so he didn't quite have the legacy or history behind him like other boxing characters do, like Balrog or Dudley. And a lot of people were pretty pissed that he was basically their replacement. But when you see him in action, it's clear that Ed represents a very different style of boxing compared to his compatriots. So what makes him different? Well, Balrog is an infighter who uses aggression and pressure to force his opponents into submission, with destructive straight punches and hooks. He is literally modeled after one of the most famous infighters of all time, Mike Tyson, right down to his signature peekaboo style guard and illegal tactics he would use to try to get the upper hand, mirroring Tyson's own reputation for his questionable ear fetish.
I'm sorry, Evander. It's your ear.
Dudley, on the other hand, is a counter-puncher. Unlike Balrog, who is known to fight dirty, Dudley is a proud and clean boxer who prefers to use finesse and technique to anticipate his opponent's next move and punish with swift, precise counterattacks. The principle behind counter-punches is that getting hit in the middle of throwing a punch is far more devastating than a regular punch. Counterpunchers usually don't have as much power behind their punches as infighters do, and so they compensate by turning their opponent's power and momentum against them. Dudley takes inspiration from the eccentric English boxer Chris Eubank, famous for his powerful counterpunches inside the ring and unique style and showmanship outside the ring. So where does that leave Ed? Ed is an outfighter. In contrast to Balrog, who wants to be up close and personal at all times, Ed excels at maintaining distance and striking with long-range flicker jabs. Outfighters aim to dictate the pace of the match by using feints to bait a reaction from their opponent and quick footwork to get in and out of their opponent's range. They're adept at positioning and hit-and-run tactics, knowing when to go in for a flurry of punches and when to retreat back to safety. Ed's fighting style is modeled after Thomas the Hitman Hearns, infamous for his whipping flicker jabs. Notice how Ed keeps one arm up and his lead arm loose, just like Hearns did. This lets him be ready to fire off a flicker jab at a moment's notice, fitting for a fighter modeled after a guy who was literally depicted with a gun, because of how unpredictable and explosive his flicker jabs were. Ed's agility and footwork, on the other hand, takes after none other than Muhammad Ali, arguably the greatest outfighter of all time. Known for his exceptional speed and reflexes, he was a master at outmaneuvering and outwitting his opponents through rapid footwork, lightning-fast jabs, and the ability to create angles that confused even the most seasoned of fighters. The references to boxing don't end there. Ed's intros reference the floodlights often used to illuminate boxing walk-ins.
Hope you'll put up a fight!
His parry animation is reminiscent of the palm block, using open gloves and extended arms to deflect and redirect punches. George Foreman, one of the most imposing figures in boxing history, utilized this very technique to great effect to smother his opponent's attack so that he can hit back with his own. His block incorporates a cross guard, which involves crossing both arms across his body to shield against attacks. But when he enters burnout, he drops this for the traditional peekaboo guard, keeping both gloves close to his face and elbows close to his body, just like his mentor Balrog. His alternate costume is literally a boxer trainer outfit, complete with gloves and skins. Even the way he fights is a homage to boxing in and of itself. Right off the bat, he has no kicks or overhead attacks, both of which would be illegal in boxing.
I'd take this seriously if I were you.
He has several target combos incorporating his flicker jabs that act as effective hit checks so that he can gauge whether to follow through. And he has the ability to drive rush cancel nearly all of his normals, with some of the most cancelable attacks than any other fighter in the game, emphasizing the nature of boxing being a sport built around finding an opening and following through. In boxing, the most fundamental technique is the 1-2 punch. It serves as a valuable conditioning tool for boxers. An effective 1-2 punch can help control the pace of the fight, disrupting their opponent's rhythm and timing, and allowing them to gauge their opponent's reaction for a punish. Ed's version of this is the Psycho Spark and Shoot, creating an initial spark of Psycho power that can nullify projectiles and let him fire back with Psycho Shoot, a Psycho-powered projectile that he can fire off at will. He can influence the speed of the projectile and the number of hits when enhanced. This combination of Spark and Shoot can act as a conditioning tool, letting Ed bait a reaction so that he can either follow through with the projectile or punish a jump-in with Psycho Upper. One of 3 anti-air options in the form of the classic uppercut, each differing in speed and amount of distance he advances forward, meaning players need to be intentional about which to execute, highlighting how boxers need to have a strong fight IQ and a calculating nature to get the upper hand. Enhanced Psycho Upper, on the other hand, serves a very different purpose. It's fully invincible but slow, making it a very high-risk, high-reward move that is best used whenever Ed is ever in a pinch. Something that can happen in boxing and any other form of martial arts for that matter, when you're up against the ropes and need a Hail Mary to escape. But if you're able to hit them at the very top of their jump with a Psycho Upper, you can follow up with a Psycho Blitz. A flurry of psycho-powered punches that is Ed's best friend up close, emulating the rapid-fire punches characteristic of boxing, with the enhanced version of Psycho Blitz turning his opponent into a literal speed bag. Psycho Flicker acts as an extension of Ed's flicker jabs, a crucial tool for his neutral game that lets him keep his opponents in check from a distance. When charged, he turns into Psycho Spider-Man, able to drag his opponents towards him with psycho-imbued tendrils, regardless of whether they block or not. Because even on block, it's still Ed's turn, letting him keep on the pressure. When enhanced, he forgoes the need to charge entirely, coming out almost instantly so that he can pull his opponents in. What makes this move so scary is that it's nearly impossible to tell the direction from which he will fire while charging, meaning opponents need to guess or counter. Psycho Flicker alone can make it very difficult for certain fighters to approach Ed, and gives him a lot of options on knockdown. But the beauty is Ed doesn't even have to commit to a charge flicker if he doesn't want to, because he can cancel mid-charge into his primary mobility tool, Kill Rush, the classic bob and weave maneuver known by every boxer to evade punches by shifting their body weight from side to side while moving their head in a bobbing motion. Further adding to Ed's exceptional ability to bait and punish whilst extending combos. This maneuver lets him dash either forwards or backwards on command. When dashing forwards, he can follow up with a short uppercut in the form of Kill Switch Break, or a stronger uppercut with Kill Switch Chaser. Another move that can cancel into Kill Rush is Psycho Knuckle, a full screen punch that crosses up the opponent and causes a crumple state. A great way to reposition Ed when in a corner, highlighting the importance of positioning in a sport like boxing. There are two states of charge for this move, half charge and full charge. Both cause a crumple state, but the full charge version can bypass projectiles and deal more damage. Whether the risk of this is worth it is debatable, because it doesn't stop multi-hitting projectiles. The half charge version is usually quick enough to catch people off guard. The full charge version is usually best saved as a combo ender, but if you are able to catch them, it is the perfect opportunity to finish them off with a super. His level 1, Psycho Storm, involves a flurry of flicker jabs, finishing with a strong left hook. His level 3, Psycho Chamber, turns his opponent into a literal punching bag.
Time's over! Never underestimate me! One more! Jackpot! Good workout!
But his level 2, Psycho Cannon, is where he truly shines.
Just lifting me off! How's this?
Which is ironic, because throwing out a giant purple fireball mid-match is about the furthest thing from boxing you can get. But who gives a shit? Because it grants Ed some of the most versatile combo routes in the game.
Just lifting me off! How's this?
You can choose between either a slow-moving variant or a fast-moving variant. You always want to go with the fast-moving variant in the corner, but anywhere else, and you always want to use the slow-moving because of the amount of devastating combos it opens up. Ed's rendition of Psycho Boxing represents a really unique take on boxing in the world of fighting games, adapting traits from various boxers throughout history whilst mixing in psycho power that may or may not comply with boxing regulations. But who needs rules when you got a fistful of fury and a body fueled by psycho power, for better or for worse?